They thought the quiet nurse was a dumb little bitch who'd keep her mouth shut. They thought if they put hands on her, she'd fold and take it. Because Emma was blonde, early 30s, light blue scrubs, soft voice, eyes always down. So when the chief surgeon crowded her space, when his fingers dragged along her arm and stayed there, when he leaned in and muttered, "Don't make this weird," no one said a word. Then he snapped, "Shut up, bitch," and hit her in front of the entire ER. They thought she was just another quiet nurse they could touch, humiliate, control. What they didn't know, what he learned 5 minutes too late, was that Emma wasn't just a nurse. She was a Navy SEAL medic. And the second he laid hands on her, his career was already dead. Before we begin, comment where you're watching from and hit subscribe. These stories only survive when real people stay to the end. Don't blink. The ER never slept. It pulsed. Alarms stitched the air together. Wheels shrieked. Voices overlapped. And in the middle of that controlled chaos stood Emma. Quiet, blonde, early 30s, light blue scrubs a size too big, counting breaths the way she always did when the noise pressed too close. In for 4. Hold. Out for 4. She didn't rush. She didn't announce herself. She moved like someone who knew exactly where to place her feet and exactly how much space she was allowed to take. People noticed her by not noticing her. Emma stalked crash carts without being asked. She caught IV lines before they kinked. She held pressure with hands that never shook. She worked nights, weekends, holidays. When someone snapped, she lowered her eyes. When someone took credit, she stepped back. The word that followed her wasn't weak. It was quiet, and quiet, in this building, meant available. The chief surgeon liked quiet. Dr. Marcus Hale owned the room the way some men owned mirrors. He was handsome in the way that came from believing it. Board-certified brilliance, donor darlings, magazine profiles. His name floated above the ER like a crown no one dared touch. When he walked in, conversations shifted. When he spoke, people complied. And when he stopped beside Emma's med cart, the air tightened in a way she recognized. "Bennett," he said, not looking at her badge. He never did. "Why is this tray still here?" "I was finishing." He stepped closer, cutting her off mid-syllable. Too close. The scent of cologne layered over antiseptic. His hand came up, fingers brushing the inside of her forearm as if by accident, then lingering just a beat longer than necessary. She felt it. The pause that wasn't a pause, the question disguised as contact. Emma shifted the tray to create space. He followed. "Don't make this weird," he murmured, voice low enough to stay private. His thumb slid, lazy, possessive, grazing skin that hadn't invited him. A smirk tugged at his mouth like he was sharing a joke only he understood. Across the bay, a nurse glanced over, then away. A resident pretended to read a chart. No one moved. No one ever did. The ER had learned what was normal. Emma said nothing. She lifted her eyes, just enough to meet his, and then looked back to the tray. Quiet didn't mean confused. It meant measured. And Hale mistook measurement for permission. A gurney slammed through the doors. Trauma incoming. The room surged. Hale straightened, authority snapping back into place as if it had never wavered. He barked orders. Emma rolled the cart where it was needed, hands steady, focus clean. The moment passed. It always did, until it didn't. The patient coded fast, chest compressions, shouted vitals. Emma noticed the breath sounds first, uneven, tight. She leaned in. "Doctor," she said, soft but clear, "we're losing." Hale's head whipped toward her. The look on his face wasn't clinical. It was offended. "I didn't ask," he snapped. "Stand back." She stood back. 30 seconds later, the monitor screamed. Emma stepped forward again. "Doctor, the chest." His palm hit her cheek with a crack that sliced through the noise like a gunshot. Time stuttered. The slap echoed louder than the heart monitor. Emma's head snapped to the side. Heat bloomed along her jaw. Hale grabbed her hair. fingers threading, yanking her back hard enough to steal her balance. His face was inches from hers, breath hot with fury and entitlement. "Shut up, bitch," he hissed. "Know your place." The ER froze. Hands hovered mid-motion. A scalpel clattered to the floor. Someone sucked in a breath and didn't let it out. Hale released her and stepped back, chest heaving, power surging through him like a drug. He expected tears, apologies, retreat. Emma reached up and adjusted her scrub cap. She touched her cheek once, as if confirming the hit was real. When she looked up, the quiet everyone relied on was gone, not replaced by rage, but by something colder. Her posture shifted, feet planted, shoulders squared. The room felt it, even if no one could explain why. Hale scoffed, misreading the moment. "Security," he called. "Get her out of my trauma bay." Emma didn't raise her voice. "He's got a collapsed lung," she said, eyes on the patient. "We need to decompress now." "Are you a surgeon?" Hale snapped. "Or do you just like hearing yourself talk?" The monitor flatlined. Hale threw the paddles down. "Call it." "No," Emma said. One word. Clean. Final. She moved. Not fast. Precise. She reached for a needle on the tray Hale had knocked aside. He stepped into her path, grabbing for her arm again, anger tipping into something uglier. This time the contact wasn't accidental. His hand clamped. Ownership. Control. That was the mistake. Emma stepped inside his reach and trapped his wrist with a turn so small most people missed it. Pressure found nerve. Balance vanished. Hale hit the floor with a sound that sucked the air from the room, his scream sharp and high as his arm twisted behind him. Emma released him and turned back to the bed. "Time me," she said. She placed the needle. Air hissed. The monitor beeped, once, twice, then steadied into rhythm. A life clawed back from the edge while Hale groaned on the linoleum, shock splintering his face. Security rushed in late, confused. Hale shouted over the noise, spinning a story already polished by practice. Assault, instability, threats. Emma didn't argue. She stood at parade rest while cuffs clicked around her wrists, the cold metal biting. As they walked her through the ER, eyes followed her, not with pity now, but something like awe. Nurses met her gaze and held it. For the first time, quiet looked like courage. In the squad car, Emma leaned her head back and counted. In for 4, hold. Out for 4. She closed her eyes and made a call that wasn't to a lawyer. A sequence of numbers. A voice that didn't ask questions. "Code black," Emma said. "Location confirmed." At the precinct, the deal came fast and smug. Sign. Apologize. Disappear. The lawyer smiled like this was mercy. Emma spun the pen once, a habit from another life. "You didn't check my discharge papers," she said. The door slammed open. Boots thundered. A general entered and snapped to attention in front of the woman in cuffs. "Major," he said. Outside, the hospital lights glared white against the night. Inside, a reckoning was winding up. And as the cameras started to roll, the quiet nurse lifted her chin, because the next 5 minutes were going to cost someone everything. The holding room smelled like old coffee and disinfectant. Emma sat on a metal bench with her wrists cuffed in front of her, light blue scrubs wrinkled, a faint red mark still blooming along her cheek. The room hummed with fluorescent fatigue. A clock ticked too loud. She breathed slow, eyes forward, posture calm in a way that made people uneasy. Across the glass, voices rose and fell, names, titles. Chief surgeon, assault, unstable. The words slid past her like rain on armor. She had learned long ago that noise was information, not instruction. A uniformed officer stepped in with a clipboard. He didn't look at her at first. "You understand why you're here," he said, rehearsed. "Yes," Emma replied. He finally glanced up, surprised by the steadiness. "You struck a superior." "I restrained someone who was interfering with care," she said. "The patient survived." The officer's jaw tightened. "That's not your call." It was, Emma said, and fell silent again. Outside the room, Dr. Marcus Hale paced like a caged animal, wrist wrapped, ego bleeding through every gesture. He spoke fast, sharp, practiced. She snapped. You saw it. She's been weird for months, quiet, watching, the kind that explodes. He lowered his voice for effect. She touched me first. Someone asked about witnesses. Hale smiled. My word should be enough. It usually was. A lawyer arrived with a briefcase that cost more than Emma's car. He didn't bother sitting. We can end this cleanly, he said, sliding papers across the table when they let him in. Sign. You apologize. You admit emotional distress. You agree to resign your license. Charges disappear. Emma read the first line. It was tidy. Final. The kind of document that erased people without blood. She placed it back on the table. No. The lawyer sighed, indulgent. You don't understand the leverage. I do, Emma said. You're betting no one looks too closely. His smile thinned. I'm betting you're afraid. She met his eyes. I'm careful. The door opened before he could reply. The officer stiffened. The lawyer stood too late. A man in dress greens entered, stars catching the light. The room shifted around him like gravity had changed. Uncuff her, the general said. Hale's lawyer sputtered. On what authority? Mine, the general replied. He nodded to Emma. Major? The word landed with weight. The cuffs came off. Emma stood, rolling her wrists once, a small ritual. The general spoke quietly, but the walls leaned in to listen. We have a patient upstairs who requested you by name. Hale burst in, face red. This is outrageous. She assaulted me. The general turned. Doctor, you put hands on a protected service member during active medical intervention. Hale laughed, brittle. Protected? She's a nurse. Emma lifted her sleeve just enough to show the tattoo at her wrist, simple lines, wings, and blade. Recognition rippled. The general didn't raise his voice. You are relieved of duty pending investigation. Hale's confidence cracked. You can't do this. We already did, the general said. In the hallway, phones came up. Whispers traveled faster than security. Emma walked with the general, past faces that had never really seen her. She didn't look back. Upstairs, the ICU doors slid open. The patient lay pale but breathing, chest rising under careful machines. His eyes opened when Emma approached. You stayed, he rasped. I said I would, she replied, adjusting a line. Her hands didn't shake. The room exhaled. Administration arrived in a wave. Suits, apologies, panic. Someone tried to assert policy. The general raised a hand. Not today. A nurse Emma barely knew brushed past her and murmured, Thank you. It was barely a sound, but it stuck. Then the first call came in. Media, then another, then 3 more. Someone had posted a clip, no audio yet, just the moment of impact, the slap, frozen mid-frame. The hospital's walls felt thinner by the minute. Emma stepped into a quiet alcove and leaned against the cool tile. The adrenaline bled out, leaving clarity. She knew this pattern. Exposure bred reaction. Reaction bred mistakes. And someone would try to fix their mistake. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. She answered. Emma, a man said, voice smooth, wrong. We should talk. Listen, she replied. If you push, people get hurt. A pause. You're making demands. I'm setting boundaries, she said, and ended the call. The general found her a moment later. Command wants you extracted. She shook her head. He's not stable for transport. We can secure the floor. You can't secure a building designed to be open, Emma said. Hospitals amplify noise. As if on cue, a crash echoed from a stairwell. Shouts followed. Security radios crackled. Possible breach. Emma was already moving. Lock the ICU. She reached the stairwell as a man in scrubs burst through, eyes wild, hand diving for his pocket. The motion was wrong, too fast, too committed. Emma shouted, "Down!" The shot went wide. Plaster burst. Security tackled him. A symbol peeked from his sleeve before he was dragged away, something Emma hadn't seen in years. Her stomach tightened. Back in the ICU, alarms argued with themselves. Emma steadied a monitor. The general watched her with a new respect. "They moved fast." "They always do," Emma said, "which means they know he's here." "Extraction," he said. "Not yet," she replied. "We move him like a patient." The plan formed in quiet pieces, a decoy, a visible show. Attention pulled where it was expected. Meanwhile, a gurney slipped through service corridors. Emma walked at the head, chart clipped, posture unremarkable. People didn't see what they weren't trained to see. At the service elevator, a woman smiled too quickly. "Which floor?" Emma noticed the shoes. "Too clean." "Basement." The woman reached for the panel. Emma moved. Wrist turned. Blade clattered. Security appeared like summoned ghosts. The elevator descended in silence, broken only by breathing. In the ambulance bay, engines idled dark. Emma rode in the back, fingers on the patient's pulse. The city slid by unnoticed. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. The driver took a turn that wasn't on the route. "Pull over," Emma said. "Orders changed," he replied, calm in a way that set her teeth on edge. She lunged, posture breaking his, forearm to throat, wheel jerking. Tires screamed. The ambulance fishtailed to a stop. Doors ripped open, floodlights flared, real uniforms this time. The driver was dragged out, cuffed. The general appeared, breath tight. "You okay?" Emma nodded. He tried to reroute. "We know." They transferred the patient to an unmarked vehicle and disappeared into a place that didn't exist on maps. Inside, dawn softened the light. The patient stabilized. Emma washed her hands and stared at her reflection. Quiet nurse, yes, but something else too. Always had been. A man in a tailored suit arrived with 2 officers. "Next steps," he said. "Accountability," Emma replied. "We'll void your termination, clean your record." "And the hospital?" "Being educated," he said. Emma thought of the nurses who had looked away because it was safer. She thought of the ones who whispered, "Thank you." "I stay," she said, "on my terms." Outside, rumors multiplied. Inside, the ICU settled. A message flashed on her phone from an unknown number. They backed off. For now, Emma deleted it. She stood at a window and watched traffic flow like nothing had happened. That was the point. She returned to the floor without ceremony, same scrubs, same calm, different gravity. Because the man who thought he could touch her had started a chain he couldn't stop. And somewhere in the building, someone who believed silence was safety was about to learn how wrong that was. If this part made you uncomfortable or unsure who was right or wrong, comment, never judge. Mourning didn't fix the hospital. It only exposed what the night had broken. Emma walked back through the sliding doors as the day shift poured in, coffee in hand, voices loud with relief that nothing terrible had happened to them. Her light blue scrubs were clean again, hair pulled back the same way it always was. If someone hadn't seen the security footage or felt the shockwave of the general's arrival, they would have missed it entirely. That was the danger. Normal was a mask people trusted. At the nurse's station, conversations thinned when Emma approached. Not fear, curiosity, the kind that measured distance. A resident stared too long and then pretended not to. Someone dropped a pen. Emma logged in, reviewed vitals, moved on. Quiet wasn't submission, it was efficiency. The hospital sent an email at 7:12 a.m. It was brief. Dr. Marcus Hale is on administrative leave pending investigation. No details, no apology, no acknowledgement of harm, just absence, like a chair removed from a table that never admitted it needed him. Emma knew better than to celebrate silence. She checked the ICU first. The patient slept, stable. She adjusted a drip, charted, nodded to a respiratory therapist who nodded back. Gratitude passed without words. On her way out, Emma noticed the camera above the door had been turned a few degrees. Subtle, intentional. Someone had wanted a different angle. At 9:04, risk management called. The office smelled like lemon cleaner and fear. 3 people sat too straight around a glass table. The woman at the head smiled like a shield. Emma, we want to make sure you feel supported. Emma sat. By whom? A pause. The institution. Then you should start by not deleting files, Emma said, calm as a pulse. The smile faltered. We don't. You disabled a camera at 2:31 a.m., Emma continued. You edited timestamps on a hallway feed. You reassigned a charge nurse to laundry. The room went quiet. The man to the woman's right swallowed. Those are standard measures during containment, Emma finished. You're trying to shrink the blast radius. The woman folded her hands. We're trying to protect patients. Emma leaned back. Then protect the truth. They offered a package, paid leave, a statement that praised her professionalism while carefully avoiding the word assault. A transfer. A fresh start. I like this start, Emma said. It tells me who you are. Her phone buzzed once. A single letter from an unlisted contact. Now. She stood. I'm needed. Downstairs, the atrium churned. Reporters had found the place where sunlight made marble look honest. Cameras pointed everywhere. A man with a microphone practiced concern. Security formed a soft wall that bent easily under pressure. Emma slipped through service corridors and emerged near the ambulance bay. The general waited beside a black SUV that reflected the hospital like a bruise. They're moving, he said. Who? Board counsel, the surgeon's father. They want to speak. About what? About you. They drove. The city slid by in clean lines. Emma watched reflections instead of traffic. At a stoplight, a cyclist knocked on the window and smiled. Emma nodded back. It was easy to forget how thin the membrane was. The building they stopped at had glass thick enough to lie. Inside, air hummed with money. Sterling Hale stood at the end of a table like a man addressing weather. He was polite in the way that presumed obedience. You've caused confusion, he said. We can simplify. Emma didn't sit. You raised a man who put his hands on a nurse. Sterling smiled, practiced. Allegedly. You trained him to believe he could. The smile hardened. We can make you comfortable. No, Emma said. You can make it right. He slid a folder across the table. This ends with you leaving. She opened it. Settlements, NDAs, patterns, names that repeated like scars. She closed it. This ends with accountability. Sterling leaned forward. You're quiet. People mistake that for compliance. People mistake it for permission, Emma said. They're wrong. Outside, the general waited. He'll escalate. I know. At noon, the video dropped with audio. The slap echoed across feeds everywhere. Hale's voice, shut up, Betchik, unmistakable. The angle showed fingers and hair, the pull, the freeze, the ER inhaling and forgetting how to breathe. By 12:07, sponsors paused. By 12:14, a board member resigned. By 12:22, an anonymous source leaked 3 prior complaints that had never reached daylight. Emma didn't watch. She was busy. In the supply room, a nurse named Kinsley stared at a screen with hands that shook. They're purging logs, she whispered. Admin access just changed. Which logs? All trauma outcomes from the last 10 years. Emma felt the shape of it. They're burying a pattern. They'll say it's routine maintenance. Emma nodded. Pull the backups. I can't. They're locking me out. Footsteps approached. Voices. Someone laughing too loudly. Emma closed the door and slid a cart into place. We take the hardware. Kinsley blinked. That's illegal. So is deleting medical records, Emma said. Pick. Kinsley swallowed and nodded. The server room was cold and loud. Lights blinked like stars. Emma mapped the racks with a glance. She pulled drives while Kinsley watched the clock on the wall. The purge ticked up, 62%, 71%, 84%. The door rattled. "Open up," a voice called. "Security." Emma didn't rush. She finished the pull and handed Kinsley the drives. "Go." "And you?" "I'll slow them." The door burst inward. Two men in suits entered with smiles that didn't reach their eyes. One held a baton. The other kept his hands empty, confident. "Ma'am," Empty Hands said, "this is a misunderstanding." Emma shifted her weight. The baton moved first. Emma moved once. The man went down hard, breath gone. Empty Hands lunged. Emma caught his wrist, turned it, stepped through, and the room echoed with a sound that made Kinsley flinch. By the time real security arrived, the suits were zip-tied and swearing. The purge hit 99%. Kinsley clutched the drives. "It's too late." Emma looked at the rack. "Not for hardware." She yanked the last bay free. The purge finished to nothing. Sirens wailed. Upstairs, Sterling Hale faced cameras and lied with a steady hand. "We are investigating a troubled former employee." The atrium screens flickered. Footage replaced logos, dates, names, outcomes, a decade of negligence stitched together by silence. Gasps rippled. Phones rose. A man tried to cut the feed and failed. Sterling's face drained. He turned, searching for control, and found none. Emma stepped into frame wearing a maintenance jumpsuit borrowed for speed. She held a drive like evidence, not a weapon. "Hospitals heal," she said into a mic she hadn't been given. "They don't hide." Applause started small and then found courage. Nurses first, then patients, then people who had been waiting for permission to be human. Police moved, cuffs clicked. Sterling protested. Cameras loved him less. Later, when the noise thinned, the general found Emma by the ambulance bay. "They'll come for you another way." Emma nodded. "They always do." He offered extraction again. She declined again. "This place needs quiet," she said. "The kind that listens." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A single sentence. "You should have stayed invisible." Emma deleted it and went back inside. Because someone else was waiting, and the door to the ICU was already opening. The ICU doors opened with a soft hiss, and for a moment the hospital felt like it was holding its breath. Emma stepped inside before anyone else could speak. The room was dim, monitors glowing green and blue like constellations that meant alive. The patient, older, scarred, stubbornly breathing, turned his head when he heard her shoes on tile. Recognition flickered before pain stole the rest of his strength. "You stayed," he rasped. "I said I would," Emma replied, already checking lines, already working. Her voice was the same quiet it had always been. The difference now was that no one mistook it for weakness. Outside the glass, administrators clustered and whispered. Phones buzzed. A lawyer paced. Somewhere above them, reporters argued over angles and airtime. Inside the room, none of that mattered. The patient's pulse steadied. A nurse exhaled like she'd been underwater. A resident cleared his throat. We have orders." Emma didn't look up. "Then read them." The resident hesitated. "They say to transfer care." Emma finally met his eyes. "Whose name is on the chart?" He swallowed. "Yours." "Then I'm not done." The words spread faster than alarms. People moved differently around her now, less dismissive, more deliberate. A respiratory therapist asked before adjusting settings. A surgeon nodded and waited. Authority had shifted without a memo. In the atrium, Sterling Hale was still talking when the cuffs went on. His outrage echoed against marble that had never listened. The cameras didn't look away. They leaned in. Years of curated power collapsed into a few stunned seconds, and no amount of money could rewind it. Back upstairs, Emma washed her hands and stared at the sink until the noise in her head quieted. She saw the slap again, not the pain, but the entitlement behind it. She saw the fingers in her hair and the assumption that she would absorb it like so many had before her. She dried her hands and let the memory pass through without lodging. A knock sounded. The general stood in the doorway, his posture softer than it had been all night. "It's done," he said. "They're processing him. The board's in emergency session." Emma nodded. "And the staff?" "Protected," he said. "For once." He hesitated. "We can still extract you, a clean exit." Emma looked past him to the nurse's station, where Kinsley sat with a cup of water, hands trembling less now, to David, who stood straighter than he had yesterday, to a young nurse who met Emma's eyes and smiled like she'd been waiting to. "I stay," Emma said. The general studied her, then nodded once. "Then we make this official." By afternoon, the hospital released a statement that actually said something. It named harm. It named accountability. It apologized without qualifiers. Lawsuits followed. Investigations multiplied. The building felt lighter, like a pressure system had moved on. Emma didn't read the headlines. She walked the floor. She listened. She taught a resident how to hear breath sounds that mattered. She corrected a chart gently. She noticed a bruise on a nurse's wrist and asked quietly if she was safe. Later, the surgeon arrived under guard. No coat, no crowd, no power left to borrow. He wouldn't meet Emma's eyes. She didn't ask him to. Justice didn't require eye contact. When the shift changed, applause rippled again, smaller this time, more personal. Emma accepted it with a nod and went back to work. Gratitude made her uncomfortable. Competence did not. At dusk, a man in a wheelchair rolled into the atrium, oxygen hissing softly. The patient from the ICU lifted a hand, fingers shaking, and found Emma across the room. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The room understood. A reporter pushed forward. "Emma, what do you say to people calling you a hero?" Emma paused, choosing care over flourish. "Hospitals don't need heroes," she said. "They need honesty." The reporter tried again. "And the surgeon?" Emma's jaw set, not in anger, but in boundary. "He learned what happens when you confuse silence with consent." The clip went everywhere. Night fell. The ER filled again. Life didn't wait for closure. Emma moved through it like she always had, except now doors opened when she reached for them. Not because she demanded it, but because people had learned to pay attention. In the break room, Kinsley hovered. "I almost didn't hit save," she admitted. "I was scared." Emma poured coffee and slid a cup across the table. "You did the right thing." "I didn't know if anyone would back me." Emma met her eyes. "You're not alone anymore." The words mattered. They stuck. At midnight, the general returned with papers. "Your status," he said, "on your terms." Emma signed without ceremony. "I don't want a title," she said. "I want safeguards." He smiled. "You'll have them." Outside, the city breathed. Inside, the hospital found a new rhythm, less frantic, more deliberate. Mistakes were named, patterns were addressed, quiet voices were heard. Emma changed out of her scrubs and stepped into the cool air. She looked up at the building, not with resentment, but with resolve. She had come here to disappear. She stayed to stand. Her phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. This won't be the last time. Emma typed back nothing and slipped the phone into her pocket. Threats needed attention. Predictions did not. She went back inside. Because someone had just been wheeled through the doors, and fear had followed close behind. Emma pulled on gloves, light blue against her skin, and stepped forward. And if you felt this, if you felt the anger, the fear, the relief, the quiet strength that doesn't announce itself, please don't leave this story here. These stories only keep going if you stay with us. Subscribe. Stay. Let us keep telling the ones that remind us why standing up matters, even when your voice is soft.